Please listen to the disclaimer at the end of this podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NA podcast, Cafecito, Our Stories. I am your host today, Gerson Guzman. My day job is managing partner of Seba Capital Partners, a lower middle market private equity firm. But what I really do full time is volunteer on various initiatives for the NA. The New America Alliance was founded in 1999 and for the last 26 years has been the leading organization advocating for American success via American Latino success. So our focus today in this conversation is to bring you the personal stories of our guests who are members of our extended community, and we will hear about their personal and professional journey. So with that, manos a la obra, let's get started. Today, we're joined by Dr. Amin, or Avi, as we all know you. How are you doing today?
Awesome.
Excellent.
This is so much fun. Thanks for having me here today.
Well, thanks for volunteering. I know most of us are not used to sitting in a studio, getting recorded, making comments. But look, we've known each other for years. You've been a longtime member of the NAA. But for those that don't know you, I will highlight that you are the son of two doctors. You yourself are a doctor. You're married to a doctor. And so the fact that you're investing in healthcare makes all the sense in the world. But I just introduced the New America Alliance as the leading advocacy organization for Latino asset managers. People look at you, they look at the name, they go, Latino? Sure. So let's start with the personal history here.
Well, Gerson, thanks for having me here. This is so much fun. And I do think you have a future in podcasts. So in case private capital doesn't work out.
Thank you. Jose Rogan is my new stage name.
You're right. Most people, when they look at me or see my name, they don't immediately think Latino. And I joke that it's a long story with my family. It took us a long time to get to the United States, and my dad is Indian, which doesn't surprise people because my name is Indian. But people are surprised when they learn that my mother is from Argentina, from Argentina, and they met as immigrants in the United States in the 1960s. They were young doctors and met in St. Louis, Missouri, of all places. And I was born and raised there, and in a multicultural home where we had friends from all over, including Indian friends and Latino friends. And I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. And I had always assumed I was going into medicine. Medicine is such a wonderful field. And my parents felt very fulfilled doing that. I thought it was really meaningful work. And I went to medical school, also in St. Louis at Washington University. Okay. And I figured out that I loved investing. And I started wondering to myself, this was in the early 90s, how would I put medicine and my burgeoning interest in business and investing together? And to make a very long journey short, I completed all my training, and then I started working in small companies and made my way into private capital.
Okay.
So when I was in my mid-30s, I figured out what I wanted to do, and that meaning healthcare private capital, and that took me to New York, where I've been with my wife and my three boys almost 20 years now.
Wow, what a journey.
Yes.
What a journey. And so your parents met as immigrants in the U.S.
Yes.
Okay. How's your tango skills?
I didn't inherit the tango or soccer playing skills that I would have liked to have.
All right.
So I'm not much of a tango master, but I do love Argentine culture, and at least I can watch Argentine soccer.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, look, you made the transition from medicine to investing. There was probably a career learning the basics. At some point during today's conversation, I want to talk about what it's like training new investors in healthcare. But talk to me about how you learned the ropes on the investing side.
When I finished my training as a doctor, I trained in internal medicine, and I worked as a young doc, and I had developed some skills in research, and because I had realized that when you think about investing in healthcare companies, one factor is, does a product do well in clinical trials? And when a product does well in terms of helping people and patients and achieving clinical objectives, what does that mean commercially? Mm-hmm. And so one important part of that journey was working in small venture-backed companies doing what's called clinical development, which is the work around designing clinical trials, presenting information to the FDA, and getting approval to go ahead and conduct trials in patients. When I was working at a small company, because our assets were all product assets, I would often go on road shows, and I started pitching to venture capitalists, and that exposed me to private capital, and I was really intrigued because I liked small companies, and I thought it would be really neat to work on a portfolio of small companies all at the same time. So I had an inkling when I got exposed to private capital that that would be something interesting that I would want to pursue.
Okay, excellent. Just a fascinating journey. And so you are now investing in healthcare.
Yes.
And look, private equity in healthcare sometimes has a bad reputation associated with it. But knowing you as I know you, you really take an impact focus to how you look at healthcare opportunities. Could you talk a little bit about your approach to healthcare investing?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Gerson, because when you're in the business world, typically we say, profits are good. So if I make profits, I must be doing good. And in the healthcare sector, we're trying to take care of patients, whether it's a provider business or products or health software and technology. And as a society, we ask that question: hey, if we have a for-profit commercial healthcare system, does that imply that we might not be doing the best for patients? And I've always believed, being a commercial person, that we need to get commerce aligned with what's good for patients. And that's tricky, but it's possible. And it's very important because when we've got a profitable business that meets the needs of investors and it takes care of patients well, we've really met the needs of all the constituents on the spectrum of society. And so I believe it's crucial to have worthwhile commercial models in the healthcare sector so that everybody can benefit. And I'm an optimist about private capital in general, and I believe that this is possible, even though I acknowledge it's difficult, and a lot of people naturally have questions about how that all fits together.
Makes sense. Now, again, it'll be in your bio, and when folks go on the Madryn website, they'll see this. You guys implement technology or work with healthcare companies that have a technology component to them. Can you talk a little bit about that as well, especially in the era where top of mind is LLMs and all sorts of AI technologies, blockchain?
Yes. Well, when we think about healthcare, what is it? And the way that I describe it is it's a very complex, technology-enabled professional service focused on human health. So the concepts are: we have professionals with a lot of differentiated expertise who help the patients. They leverage technology. The technology could be pharmaceutical or biotech products. They could be medical devices, diagnostic tests. Does the patient have cancer, yes or no? And then increasingly, we've got software and we've got artificial intelligence. And we as a firm believe that AI will be transformative in healthcare, and we can go through the reasons why. But both because we have professionals providing the services and we leverage technology, that's what makes it complex and at times also very expensive to implement all these technologies. So there's a lot of complexity in the healthcare sector that we need to disentangle to make a good business that also helps patients. And so it's a long journey trying to be a healthcare expert. I'm very open with my team. I'm proud of having been in the healthcare sector 30 to 35 years and a private capital investor for 20 years. But even after all that time, there's a lot more to learn.
You look like you're 35, by the way. Okay, I want whatever healthcare you're investing in to look a little younger myself.
Thank you. I guess I've always kind of had a baby face. People have always told me that.
Genetics. Genetics helps. You mentioned your team, and sorry to interrupt there. How big is your team?
So we are 15 people,
okay,
managing just over $1 billion.
Okay.
So as you know, that's small in the private capital world, where we're an emerging manager, and we have a 15-person team. And each and every member of that team is very important because we have a lot of responsibility to our limited partners. And one thing that I've observed on the journey of starting a firm, our firm is a little over 8 years old, and one of the most important tasks, it's not just about finding and doing good deals or about fundraising while you find and do good deals. Those are both very difficult. But what I think is more difficult and more important is the process of human capital development. Getting
right.
talented 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds who have a lot of knowledge, who are learning what it is to be a fiduciary to institutional investors, training them in that mission, and then also giving them a growth mindset of, hey, we know a lot and we're always learning and improving because the world of business and investing is always changing. Just, AI is going to change everything now for almost every industry. And so it's developing those adaptive skills that's really important. And one observation, I spent the first 10 years of my career in an academic medical center where you have older doctors training younger doctors, and you're training students at the same time. And I thought to myself, that's a great metaphor for building a firm because we're all doing, learning and improving, and then teaching at the same time. And that's harder. The culture and teaching part, I think, is harder than the fundraising and the investing, both of which are very hard in their own right. So trying to do all those at the same time, that's why it's so difficult to build a firm.
Yeah. Let's dive in on that a little bit, because a great analogy coming from your background, right? And we've all been in hospitals where young doctors are coming in and being trained. There's been so much change in healthcare, right? Whether you're looking at the regulatory space, the reimbursement space, the technology space. Layer on top of that economic cycles. So your numbers were about 4 decades of experience in healthcare and investing. How do you transfer that knowledge to a generation that hasn't seen the cycles, that maybe's a 25-year-old, associate that just completed an investment banking background, or maybe someone you hired from the field?
Yeah, I think it's one of the hardest things to do is to help young professionals understand the market cycle. So, for example, in the prior decade, we had persistently low interest rates, and that promoted a lot of expansion in private capital for a whole host of very good reasons. At times, perhaps, the low interest rate environment made it seem like it was easier to succeed or to do good deals than it really is. And then, of course, when the cycle turns and interest rates go up substantially, all of a sudden, we have to really focus harder on the nitty-gritty of operational improvement. We do a lot of grinding when we're going through a cycle like this, taking two companies, putting them together, growing their cash flows, looking at expenses line item by line item to make the business better.
Bringing that discipline.
That's the grind phase. Private capital is, in my opinion, the best job I could ever think of. It's interesting all day, every day, and during some parts of the cycle, it's going to feel like a grind, even when you've got your dream job. So for the young people who were used to consistent growth in knowledge and responsibility, we let them know, hey, sometimes we're actually making a lot of progress, but it feels like we've plateaued. And part of being a professional is grinding through those times when it feels like you've plateaued. Right. But actually what's happening is you're growing your knowledge and capability as a team and also at the individual level, and that's going to lead to the successes later. And so I think the hardest thing for young professionals is understanding the consistency piece of leadership and professionalism. They're very
elevating
capable.
Those leadership skills.
That's right. And knowing that professionals do it all day, every day, even on the days when it feels like a little bit of a grind. So the private capital markets have always gone through boom bust cycles. Our strategy, as I think is a credit strategy for small, lower middle market growth companies. And Private credit went through a boom phase. There's going to be some adjustment now as we enter the second chapter of private credit, and that's normal. So it's nothing to be afraid of. On the contrary, it's something to learn from. And when you push through those moments, and the LPs know that, when you push through those moments and work a little harder to generate liquidity or to improve a business, that's actually when you prove to your limited partners that you're building an enduring franchise that they can come back to cycle after cycle.
Yeah, and look, DPI is the new IRR, right?
Yes.
And they want to see that money coming back, especially in this
Yes.
in this environment. So you called yourself an emerging manager. It's a term that I sometimes struggle with because I look at you and all that experience. You're not emerging. You're experienced. You're really the next generation manager. But at some point, you made that leap to become an entrepreneur and start your own asset management firm. Two-part question. Talk to me about how that decision came to be made, how you thought you were ready to take on that risk, that responsibility. And what would you say to a young investor who is thinking about making that leap? You know, what to do or what to do differently?
Yeah, well, so what had happened was in New York, I had been at two large firms where I gained a lot of experience. And at the most recent firm that I was at, we had just began a new healthcare private credit strategy. And our private credit business lived adjacent to a hedge fund business, which unfortunately needed to wind down.
Okay.
And we had basically just arrived and had begun our business. And in one of those moments in your career that you never forget, our anchor limited partners called me up one day and said, hey, we're not sure that your business should stay at your current firm. Why don't you spin out and we will support you to do that? So having built up a relationship with our limited partners, they encouraged us to spin out. So while I had always dreamed about starting my own firm, I didn't have any immediate concrete plans to do so. And then the circumstance of our prior firm's hedge fund business winding down prompted this opportunity. So within over about a 6 to 12 month spin out process, we put together the plans to separate and form Madryn.
Okay.
And we were able to exit with our AUM at the time, and we've been able to grow since then. But it was not planned. It was a little bit of a response to a crisis, and the immediate thought was, since we were already managing capital, is separate into a new business in order to execute the mission for the LPs. And then after we achieved that, we devoted a lot of thinking to how are we going to build a differentiated firm culturally and from an investment standpoint. In other words, what are the structural inefficiencies in healthcare that we wanted to target to really deliver differentiated returns for the limiteds?
Excellent. So Cafecito is about the origin story. We've
Yes.
heard your background. Madryn, where's the name from? What does it mean? Give me that story.
Yes. So Madryn is actually a place in Argentina that is a center for whale watching and other marine life.
Okay.
And it's difficult, as you know, to find a new
Most
name
people
for
can't
a firm.
pronounce Saba, but that's a story for another day.
And I was trying to come up with a name, and I Googled beautiful places in Argentina, and I came up with the name Madryn, which is Argentina, as I mentioned, or as you may know, is itself a multicultural country with a lot of European immigrants. In Argentina, there are a lot of Italian and Spanish immigrants, which is part of my family's background. There are also English and Welsh and Irish and French and German immigrants. Yeah. And Madryn is actually a Welsh name. The Welsh settled the Patagonia in Argentina, and they named this beautiful port town with whale watching and marine life. They named it Madryn after a place in Wales. So our family doesn't actually have any connectivity to Wales per se, but I thought it was a very beautiful name and a beautiful place, and so we called the firm Madryn.
Well, I love the tribute to your heritage and the intersection of all those cultures. Excellent. We have a little bit of a lightning round. We're going to have some fun here. just to keep things, spicy. So, a few questions here. Get my notes out. Just what comes to mind. Ricky Martin or Bad Bunny?
I don't know who Bad Bunny is, so I'm going to say Ricky Martin. Is that okay? I'm not. Pop
All right,
culture
Ricky Martin
is not.
or Mark Anthony?
Mark Anthony,
There you
because
go.
I like ancient history.
We're aging ourselves. All right. And then bachata or salsa? I know you probably want to say tango. Bachata or salsa?
Salsa.
Salsa, okay.
When I failed tango, I tried salsa, but I was no better at salsa than tango.
Okay.
But at least I tried.
All right. Here's an easy one for you. Messi or Ronaldo?
Gerson, for real? U.S. and Argentina, that question?
Let's transition here to your favorite or one of your favorite quotes. What comes to mind, and how do you think about tying that to your personal professional journey or what you do day to day?
So I'm not a great soccer player, but I like watching great soccer players. So I love a quote from Diego Maradona, who everyone knows as an Argentine soccer star and leader.
Well, the Argentines know him. Some parts of the world, but please continue. We'll ask the English about how they feel about Maradona, but please continue.
They know he's awesome. He cuts a corner every now and again. But
Hey,
so Maradona used to say things about leading teams, and I remember a quote from a documentary about him that I saw, in which he said, "In the middle of chaos, number 10 always shows." And what I think that means is, when you're in tough circumstances, good leaders find ways to bring out the best in themselves and the best in others in order to face a challenge. So I've always liked that one. And, I think it's really true. You've got to be growing and aspiring as a leader in order to be at your best. And then it's important to model that for your colleagues and try to bring out the best in them.
So the World Cup's around the corner. For those that are not soccer fans or as knowledgeable about soccer, what's a number 10 in soccer?
So a number 10 is kind of a key offensive player, kind of a team's lead striker who is responsible for putting the ball in the net.
Excellent. Well, I opened up with talking about the NAA. You've been a member for a long time. You're actually pretty actively involved. You're on the board. Talk to us a little bit about your involvement with the organization, and for folks out there who are looking for an organization to belong to, what would you say to them about this being something that they should be part of?
Yeah, well, it's been a wonderful 6 or 7 years. I don't even remember how long with the NAA. And what I like about it is it's a chance to connect with other managers who are building their own businesses. Also connect with a bunch of very talented Hispanic leaders. Henry Cisneros is someone who comes to mind, who is a political leader, as well as a business builder and real estate investor is wonderful to interact with. There's so many others. And I love the way we interact with limited partners. Limited partners have a lot of responsibility to their pension beneficiaries or their endowments. And it takes a while to establish a trust relationship with a newer manager organization. So to be able to network with them iteratively, understand the professionals on the other side, share what we do or what any of the other member firms do, I think is a very worthwhile relationship building exercise. So the networking is really good. And we get to talk soccer, so I love that too.
Yeah. Well, look, for someone who's also on the front end of the entrepreneurial journey, just being able to interact with other managers like you who are further along in that trajectory is of tremendous value. Avi, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that the audience got to know you a little bit better. And to that audience, thank you for joining us on the NAA Cafecito podcast. We look forward to having you sign up to follow the program and have an opportunity to meet many other managers and other members of the ecosystem along the way. So with that, hasta la próxima, or better yet, hasta el próximo cafecito. Until next time.
This podcast should not be copied, distributed, published, or reproduced in whole or in part. The information contained in this podcast does not constitute a recommendation from the New America Alliance, the host, or guests to any listener. The terms NAA or New American Alliance may refer to any one or more entities associated with the NAA. Neither the NAA, host, or guests, nor any of their respective affiliates or employers make any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information contained in this podcast.